Hi guys, welcome back. Now, this is the final part of my interview with the Sensible Software founder, Jon Hare. In this part of the interview, we cover the demise of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, why Jon prefers Apple over Android, and what it takes to become a professional game designer. Got a lot to cover here, so without further ado, here is Mr. Jon Hare.
You could resurrect it with those, was it the Rock Band instruments?
Possibly could, but I think it was more of a Leisure Suit Larry game, as you said. I mean, that's what it was. It was that kind of Monkey Island or Leisure Suit Larry, or just the subject matter was different. It was about a rock band, but that's what it was. And as you know, all the point-and-click adventures no one wanted them for 10 years. Another thing I don't understand why suddenly they went out of fashion. I've got no idea. I loved those games. The other guys' games I'm talking about now. That's all sex and drugs and rock and roll was. It was like a mixture of kind of the psychedelic spirit of WizKid and Whizball and Leisure Suit Larry or Monkey Island. That was it. So, to me, it should have worked. People would have laughed at it. It was funny. It was funny. It was meant to be funny, and it was funny. It was childish, kind of schoolboy humour,
Have you played Rockstar Ate My Hamster?
Yes, I have. Maybe some of that. It was a little bit. It didn't put its punches. We did have one. I wanted to push the boat out there, and we had a couple of irreligious jokes. In fact, we showed it to a lawyer, and he said the only problem we had was with some of the irreverence to religion content. But I kind of thought, why not? I'm not religious. Doesn't offend me.
So they told you couldn't be irreverent towards a religion?
They said, we basically asked them, would we have legal problems with this game?
Oh.
And they said, no, there's nothing in there that's a problem. The only problem you got is you got a picture of a guy on a cross floating around in space, naked, having sex with somebody. Change the cross. So we changed it to a star. It's like that.
They wanted you to change the cocaine to Stardust or something like that too.
Oh no, GT asked us about that. Actually, that was a genuine request we got. Can we change it? And it's like, we could, but that's not really the point. It wasn't really. The game wasn't really about drugs that much. The drugs was really. We use it as a game mechanic. So if the guy was doing certain drugs and his options of what he could answer and his conversations changed because he thought about different things to say. That kind of stuff. So drugs are really good game mechanics. The game was really toned down from what it initially was. Initially we called it Drugged Out Hippie, and there's about a guy who was in a band and he borrowed £2,000 from some Hells Angels to get a van together to tour with his band. He had 7 different drug habits to support, so he had like speed and dope and heroin and all sorts of things, and each drug had a different effect on the game. So if he was doing speed, it would speed the game up. If he was doing LSD, then he'd start to see weird stuff. And that was as an idea. We never got that done, but that was fun. And it went much worse now. He can make money by dragging women into his van and pimping them out and stuff down the side of the road and all sorts of ideas. So we really toned it down by the end.
It sounds like it was all the stuff that Rockstar's doing now. You'll hide it in your game.
Well, it's just, I think what we tried to capture was the kind of, I think we did it in a lot of our games at Sensible. It's the kind of humour that you speak to your friends in the bar. Just jokes you have with your friends where no one gets offended because everyone understands that it's a decent guy and he's just saying something funny because he wants his friends to laugh or just because it came into his head. That's kind of how we approached our work. We weren't particularly trying to be anything. It's like when we did, like with Cannon Fodder with those, with remembering dead people. We didn't intend to do that. It just kind of came out that way, and we went, "Oh, that's pretty good. We'll run with it." It's kind of kind of how we approached our creativity, really. So.
All right. Well, I got one last question. Actually, I'm sorry, two last questions. One is contributed from a listener or from a viewer. So he wants to know if you. His name is. Actually, I don't have his name here handy, but he does the Gnomes Lair blog. So he wants to know: do you still have the original Sensible Soccer code? Modern PCs lack a decent football game.
Yes, I think we do, and I spoke to the original coder, Chris Chapman, today, about 4 hours ago. So, in short, I'm sure it can be dug up somewhere, yes.
He's probably wondering, I'm just extrapolating here, he's probably wondering if you might be interested in releasing that. It's kind of open source type project.
Got to remember, I don't own Sensible Soccer and haven't owned it since 1999. We sold Sensible Software to Codemasters in 1999, and they got all the old games. That's why they bought it. So, afraid, out of my control. Speedball a little bit more in my control. Speedball, we've not spoken much about our new game Speedball 2 Evolution, which we put out.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about that.
Which is a fantastic version of Speedball, which is it's been out on iOS for about 2 months now. Came out on Mac a month ago. Is about to come out on Symbian soon. We're going to do some Sony Minis version pretty soon. So there's a few different versions of that coming. We're maybe going to do an Android version. And the engine for that's really good, Speedball engine, and it does. And a lot of the Speedball engine is actually just Sensible Soccer sitting beneath the bonnet. So we're looking at doing a football game pretty soon based on that Speedball engine. So there's hope yet.
I think when we're done, I'm definitely going to download Speedball on the iPhone here and give it
give it a whirl.
Give it a kick.
Good. It's pretty good actually. I'm very pleased with it. I mean,
it looks great.
It's been a great hit game for us. I mean, we've been #1 on the Mac in Italy, France, and Germany. #1 on the iPad in those countries, and where else? New Zealand. #2 in the UK on iPhone and iPad. Pretty good. As usual, Europe's done the job for us, and the States, not a dicky bird. It's the way it is.
You know, you mentioned Android. I'm just curious what do you prefer Apple's approach to their App Store, or do you like Android sort of free market?
I'm a professional games maker. I don't like my games being given away for free. You know, it's bad enough that our back catalogue dies because technology changes. You know, I mean, one of my biggest bugbears, I guess, is, as I said, I've had lots of hit games. You know, if you're talking to a musician who'd had 10 #1 hits in the past, he would have been earning so much money from that, from all the years subsequently. And what happens to us is, after 2 or 3 years, no one buys the games anymore. They're effectively dead because the technology's moved on. And a lack of legacy from an artistic point of view is an issue, which means that you certainly can't afford the game to be free in the first place when it comes out, because you've only got 2 or 3 years of making money for it before you're not going to make any money at all. So, you know, obviously the creativity in the games do come first, but not losing money is important, and making some money is important. And I do resent the fact that the technology companies have not prioritized the software developers in terms of making sure that their product has long-term legacy and some money earning ability. I think we've been pretty much shafted by every single hardware company for the last 20 years of not taking enough care to make things backwardly compatible and for some money to be made. You know, I mean, with Speedball, we've done a conversion of the game. It's a really good conversion, but it's cost quite a lot of money to do that conversion. So, you know, people are very used to free entertainment now, and that's because there's a lot of shoddy entertainment which deserves to be free, to be fair. But some people take a lot of care, do things very professionally, but they can't do that for free. So I prefer iOS. In short, I think it's ridiculous to say to someone, here's a model of putting product out and it's totally free. It's okay for hobbyists to think like that. Maybe they want just a hobbyist market. I don't know. I don't think they've really thought about it. You know, if you look at the history of the mobile platforms, they treat games like just the second rate of the, you know, the applications are second rate to them, and games are a small part of that. They're almost an afterthought. And I think that that the mobile companies, and that's why I've got time for Apple, because they treat us with respect. The mobile companies, and I'm talking about pre-smartphone, I'm talking about 2004 when Tower was set up as a mobile developer. The mobile companies have pretty much treated developers like dirt, like expendable pawns for a long, long time. So I don't have any time for that at all.
You must really get pissed off about all the abandonware sites and all the pirates and everything that take all of your library.
Pirates are okay if they are going on in tandem with sales. You know, when Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder were at their peak, we were getting a 10-to-1 piracy rate. For every 1 copy we sold, 10 were pirated. But to an extent it didn't matter, because piracy helped to spread the word, and those guys weren't always going to buy the games, and we were still selling millions of copies. Yeah? But when you're not selling millions of copies, you're selling tens of thousands of copies, and the piracy rate is 10 times or more, it annoys you. You know, it depends on the volumes here. You know, I just think that there's too much content in the world at the moment, which has bred a lack of respect for content. There's not enough discrimination about quality. You know, discrimination is not a bad word. Discrimination means calculating whether something's worth it or not, or whether something's different to something or not. I think a lack of discrimination has been used for a long time in terms of quality. And to be fair, I think the quality's dropped in a lot of cases as well. So,
okay, so my last question for you, John, is you know, we've been talking a little bit before about how you've been working with some people who aren't necessarily the best, the most skilled. So what about somebody today, the kid, you know, I always like to, you know, think about the 12, 13-year-old, maybe 16-year-old watching this, who wants to, you know, be the highly skilled expert programmer or game designer. What should this kid be doing right now and planning to get to where you are?
Okay, well, okay. We've only got a few minutes. I'm going to be very, very quick.
Okay.
I think the first thing you've got to understand is it's very hard to make games on your own. You need a team. And to get going and to be a valuable part of that team, you probably need 1, 2, or 3 friends. So 2, 3, or 4 guys is enough to make something happen. Pick a small platform. iPhone is ideal, or small flash game. iPhone's great because it takes you right through the process of making a game, getting to the end, publishing it, you know, or any of those. You know, you could choose a Symbian phone or whatever else, other ones, Windows 7, whatever you might want to do. But pick a game, make it very small and unambitious. That much with Tiny Wings, I would say, for all that I've criticised it, is good. It's not an ambitious game, and for what it is, it's executed pretty well, actually. So pick something small and within your ability, and then execute it as well as you can, and really push for quality. You don't learn anything about making games until you've gone through a full game cycle, which means starting it, planning all the design, going through all the problems, and coming out the other end. Once you've done that 2 or 3 times, you'll be good enough. I mean, I'm actually working with a bunch of different universities and colleges at the moment, looking at their prospectuses, and we're trying to get real game development as part of the courses. It's something which we're looking at with a few people here in the UK now, which is quite fun for me. It's a bit of a departure, and I think that's what it is. And you know, be realistic about what your skills are. You know, do you know what a game designer means? It means loads of documentation. It means loads and loads of detail. You know, every single detail about the game you're going to need to know the answer to. Anyone who's involved in the team, if they've got a question, you must know the answer. That's what being a game designer is. If you want to be a programmer, you know you know, I'm not sure that people really do want to be programmers now, because I'm not sure they understand what it all entails. It's about making everything work. If you want to be an artist, it's got to be a commercially slanted artist, but still with your creativity in. So you need to learn all these things. So I think just, you know, I always say to people, you know, your best ambition should be to keep your head in the stars and your feet on the ground. You need to stretch yourself both ways, you know. Find your most realistic dream and aspire to it. It's kind of, I guess, what I'm saying. And that's what people should do. You know, and not just talk about it, do it. Talk, all the talk in the world never did anything. You know, a game which is 99% finished was a waste of time. That's what I feel about Sex, Drugs and Rock and Roll. It was a waste of time. Like Cannon Fodder 3, I spent 2 years on that. That was another waste of time. You know, for me personally, for my development, it was good. But for commercially, for what went out there, what people have seen, it was a waste of time. The same with every single demo, every game anyone out there is making. If you don't finish it, no one's going to see it. You've not proved yourself. You've wasted your time. And if you're working with your friends, you've wasted everyone else's time. So it's about a team game. You know, it's about, right, we're in it together. We're going to stick through it. We're going to get to the end. People will judge us at the end, but let's get to that end first. That's the hard bit. So that's my advice. Be realistic, stick at it, go for it.
And that's all for this week's episode. Man, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Should be back next week with a retrospective. I'll keep you in suspense about the game in question, but I hope you guys don't feel betrayed by my selection. Also, have an ale here, another British or English ale that I wanted to try. This is the Hobgoblin Dark English Ale from the Witchwood Brewery in Oxfordshire, England. So looking forward to that. And as always, I really appreciate you guys who are donating and supporting this show. It means a lot to me. And again, I think you'll like the show a lot better if you ante up. Now, I was gone last week. I had despite a serious case of fiddler's elbow, I had a great time in Florida. We went to Tampa and rode some roller coasters and busch gardens and got in all kinds of mischief. Got the photos up on Facebook if you'd like to see that. No more trips planned for the near future, so don't worry about your missing any more match hats for a while. Now, the quotation this week comes from Truman Capote. And although it's about books, I think it probably applies equally, if not even more, to games. And it goes something like this. Finishing a book is like taking a child out in the backyard and shooting it. See you guys next week.
His body lives, the autonomic functions continue. But there is no mind.